The Mirzai Valley still clung to them, dust on their uniforms, ghosts in their eyes. But the moment the figure stepped into the operations tent, the weight shifted. Men who had seen too much war straightened in their seats, as if the battlefield itself had just entered the room. She was Captain Sienna Cross, small, quiet, too unassuming to match the whispered stories that leaked through the ranks. Her uniform was stripped of anything resembling glory khaki fatigues, dust clinging to her sleeves, hair pulled into a regulation knot. To most, she looked like a staff officer misplaced in a war zone. Marines looked up from maps, trading doubtful glances. A knot of Navy SEALs leaned back in their chairs, smirks curling at the edges. "That's her. That's the one they keep talking about," one muttered. The chuckle spread like sparks, sharp and dismissive. At the far end of the tent, General Marcus Steele straightened. His chest was crowded with ribbons, his stare carved from 3 decades of command. Steele didn't believe in legends. He believed in results, and the woman in front of him didn't look like results. The air thickened, laughter mixed with doubt. Whispers rippled. She's supposed to be something. A ghost? A myth? Steele's jaw tightened. He had seen men die chasing stories, and he despised any legend he couldn't crush. He rose from the table, boots pounding the floor. The tent stilled instantly. His gaze locked onto Cross like a blade drawn. "You," he barked. "Step forward." Cross obeyed. Steady, smaller than most, leaner too, but there was iron in the way her shoulders squared. Her eyes held. The SEAL's smirks wavered, curiosity sharpening. Name, unit. Steele's voice filled the tent. "Captain Sienna Cross. Special reconnaissance." Her tone was clipped, textbook precise. Steele stepped closer, his shadow cutting across her face, his lips pulled tight. "Not good enough," he said. Voice quiet, but lethal. "Call sign. Drop your city and country in the comments. Where are you watching from? Soldier, hit subscribe and join the Quiet Valor community for more unseen stories." The effect was instant. Marines froze. A chair scraped the floor. Even the SEALs went still. Weeks of rumors collided with this single moment. Every man leaned toward the answer they half feared, half craved. Cross lifted her chin, unshaken. "Specter 7. The words tore through the tent like steel across canvas. Silence slammed down, heavy and absolute. Even Steele paused. He had heard that name whispered before, buried in classified reports marked eyes only. Pages he'd dismissed as exaggerations. Fallujah, Kandahar, rumors of a shadow who slipped behind enemy lines and turned chaos into order. It had never been confirmed. Until now. Now the call sign had a face, a voice, a presence that refused to break. For the first time, the room believed. No one laughed. No one whispered. Even the SEAL who'd mocked loudest found his jaw clenched tight, his gaze unwillingly fixed on her. Across the table, junior officers exchanged glances. They had seen fragments of those reports, blurred outlines of impossible victories attributed to a phantom officer. Every line had ended the same, unverified. But the source now stood alive in front of them. Steele's expression hardened, but inside, something shifted. He despised myths, but he couldn't ignore the weight of that call sign. He had heard it in closed-door briefings, spoken in tones officers never used. "Specter 7, Steele repeated slowly, as if testing iron in a forge. The tent stayed still as stone. Marines who had scoffed moments earlier lowered their eyes. SEALs who prided themselves on being unshakable sat rigid, arms folded to mask unease. Captain Sienna Cross didn't gloat. She didn't smirk. She stood silent, her expression calm, as if daring the room to weigh her without words. Her silence carried more than speeches ever could. Somewhere near the back, a SEAL muttered, Not loud, but clear enough for others to hear. No wonder they're still alive. The words spread like dry fire through the tent. Men remembered convoys ambushed in Mirzai Valley, units trapped, yet somehow clawing back without a single Marine lost. Those reports had always felt like lies told in smoke and chaos. But the woman at the center of those stories was standing right there, unflinching. Steele's stare drilled into Cross, hunting for weakness. He saw none. What looked back was calm fire, not arrogance, not bravado, but certainty. For the first time in years. Steele felt unsettled. He leaned in, his voice low, carried farther than a shout. "I hope that name isn't just smoke." Cross didn't blink. "It isn't, sir." The silence that followed was no longer mocking. It was respect-heavy. Raw, undeniable. But legends aren't born in briefing tents. They're proven in blood and fire. And in the broken streets of Mirzai. Weeks earlier, Specter 7's legend had already begun. Part 3, the ambush, the echo of her call sign still hung like smoke. Specter 7. Marines who had scoffed minutes earlier now kept their eyes down. The silence wasn't absence. It was reverence. Raw and reluctant. General Marcus Steele leaned into the briefing table, maps crinkling beneath his fists. His gaze never left Sienna Cross. He'd seen reputations swell too quickly before, crushing the very men they were meant to inspire. Legends made soldiers reckless. When myths shattered, Marines died. Finally, Steele rose, boots striking the plywood floor. He closed the distance until his shadow fell across her face. "You understand what you've just done." Captain Cross stood at attention, shoulders squared. "Yes, sir. Marines will expect you to be unbreakable. They'll believe you can't fall. And if you do, they'll fall with you." His words cut sharp, meant to dig under her armor. But she didn't blink. Her breathing was steady, her eyes like glass, clear, unflinching. When she answered, her voice carried quiet steel. "Then I won't break." "Sir." The tent went still, thicker than before. Even the generator hum seemed to fade. Steele studied her face the way a battlefield commander studies terrain hunting for fractures. Bluff. Anything. But what looked back at him wasn't bravado. It was certainty. Forged in fire and sharpened by survival. One of the SEALs. The same man who had laughed earlier. Lowered his gaze. A captain by the table pressed his lips tight. The weight of rumor had just been matched by fact. Steele's eyes narrowed. Skepticism warring with something else. Recognition, respect reluctant, but undeniable. "Very well," he said at last. Voice quieter but carrying farther than a bark. Specter 7. No one moved. No one spoke. The legend had been acknowledged. The silence shattered when the door flap burst open. A young lieutenant strode in, pale under the lights, a folder clutched in his hands. He placed it in front of Steele. Lips pressed shut. Steele scanned the report, his jaw tightening with every line. When he looked up, his voice was even, but the weight sank into every chest. "Recon Bravo's gone dark. Last contact. 20 minutes ago. Outskirts of Mirzai Valley. No comms. High chance of ambush." Unease rippled through the room. Every man understood what that meant. A silent unit in Mirzai wasn't lost. It was surrounded. Steele's eyes locked on Cross. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Captain Cross, you're on point." The words hit like a hammer. Marines shifted uneasily. The SEALs traded quick glances. They had seen her stare down the general, heard the call sign whispered in fear and awe. But this was different. This wasn't rumor, or legend, or briefing room bravado. This was a test written in dust and blood. Cross didn't hesitate. She adjusted the strap of her Barrett Emerald, her movements precise. Ritualistic? Yes. Sir, around her, boots scraped, rifles clicked into place, Marines and SEALs fell into formation. The legend of Specter 7 was about to be measured not by whispers, but by war. Part 4 Specter 7 unveiled. Part 4 Specter 7 unveiled Tin Chin. Doubt lingered in their eyes, but so did something else respect. Reluctant but growing. Outside the wire, Mirzai Valley was alive with tension. The city hummed in the distance, but the outskirts were darker, quieter. That was where danger lived, behind every crumbled wall and shattered arch. The convoy rolled under red light, tires grinding gravel, engines throttled low. Inside the armored vehicle, silence held. Captain Sienna Cross sat near the door, helmet tipped down, mind replaying fire patterns, blind spots, the cadence of ambushes that punished hesitation. At the outskirts, Steele's voice cracked over comms. Specter 7. Lead them in. Cross gave the signal. Marines and SEALs dismounted, boots crunching dirt, rifles raised. The alleys yawned ahead, suffocatingly narrow. A dog barked once in the distance, then silence. Feels like a trap, a SEAL muttered. Cross didn't answer. Her hand lifted, signaling halt. Eyes swept rooftops, shattered balconies, black windows. Too quiet. The air shifted, weighted by unseen eyes. Positions, she said softly. Calm cut through nerves, and they obeyed. The night exploded. A rifle crack, then a Marine went down hard. Brothers dragged him behind rubble as bullets chewed stone. Automatic fire poured from rooftops and alleys, smoke and dust rolling like waves. The convoy was pinned, funneled into a kill box. Cross pressed to a broken wall, heartbeat steady, where others saw chaos. She saw patterns, angles, pauses, exposed flanks. Her gaze locked on a collapsed wall, jagged but climbable. Cover me, she ordered. Marines and SEALs shifted fire, opening a gap. She sprinted low, rounds snapping inches away, hit the wall, climbed fast, precise, rolling over the rooftop edge. She rose behind the first sniper. Her Barrett barked once surgical. The man crumpled. She dropped two more in quick succession, her fire breaking the rhythm of the ambush. Below, Marines felt the battlefield tilt. She's opening lanes, a SEAL shouted. Disbelief raw. Cross didn't clear every rooftop alone. Her precision created openings. Squad leaders seized them, rallying their men. Push left, someone bellowed. The line surged, dragging the wounded, rifles hammering in cover fire. From above, Specter 7 guided them, every shot measured, every movement deliberate. By the time the firing ebbed, the convoy was bloodied, but alive, every Marine still breathing. Cross descended the ruined wall, boots soft in the dust. She slid back into formation without a word, expression unreadable. She hadn't asked for their awe, but she had earned it. The SEALs who had mocked her hours earlier said nothing. Their smirks were gone, replaced by silence weighted with something heavier. Respect. But in war, respect is only the beginning. The real test was still waiting. Final part, legacy of Specter 7. One voice finally broke the silence. Low but certain. That's not rumor. That's real. In that moment. The legend of Specter 7 was no longer a whisper. It was truth carved into every man's memory. The convoy rolled back through the wire under the pale wash of floodlights. Dust clung to their uniforms, the smell of gunpowder heavy on their skin. Medics rushed forward, tending to the wounded. But what mattered most was this: every Marine was alive. Every man who had walked into the kill zone had walked back out. Inside the operations tent, the atmosphere was unrecognizable from before. The same SEALs who had mocked Captain Sienna Cross now stood quietly along the wall, faces unreadable. Marines who had doubted her moved stiffly, as if standing in the presence of something larger than themselves. At the head of the table, General Marcus Steele waited, arms crossed, ribbons catching the light. When Cross entered, her boots steady on the plywood floor, the room fell silent. This time, no one whispered, no one dared. Steele studied her, his eyes hard but no longer skeptical. He had seen enough to bury doubt. "Specter 7, he said at last. The call sign deliberate, heavy. You kept every man alive today." He didn't give a speech. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he gave her the smallest nod. From a man like Steele, that was worth more than medals, more than ribbons. It was respect, forged in fire and earned in blood. For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to bow. SEALs stood silent. Marines stared. Reverence etched into their faces. Cross returned the moment with a crisp salute. Steele returned it, sharp and short. Nothing more needed to be said. That night, word spread faster than radio, across Mirzai Valley, in chow halls, guard posts and barracks. Marines whispered her name with certainty. Specter 7 wasn't rumor anymore. She was real. Young recruits carved S7 into helmets and rifle stocks like talismans. Veterans nodded quietly, passing the story down without exaggeration. Later, under a sky of endless stars, Sienna Cross sat on a sandbag wall. She cleaned her rifle in silence, motions slow and steady. She didn't bask in the whispers. She didn't crave the legend. She only thought of the men who were alive because of what had happened in those alleys. Her words were soft, meant only for herself and the night. "As long as they come home," she whispered. "The name is worth it." The wind carried her vow into the dark, mingling with the sound of distant laughter, laughter of Marines who had survived. Specter 7 was no longer just a call sign. She was a legacy,